Welcome to Plus Talk on Plus Life. Today I'm joined by longtime activist and a friend of mine, Bryan C. Jones. Hey Bryan, how you doing?
I'm doing fair to Midland, as they say in the South.
Listen, thanks for taking the time out to join me on Plus Talk. I want to talk today about something obviously that you and I both feel very passionately about, and that's U equals U, undetectable equals untransmittable. I talk about it all the time, and yet in conversations I've had with people like yourself and others, we're realizing that this messaging is not getting out to the communities who really need to be hearing it. Black and brown communities, right?
Yes, but my thing is this: a lot of times we hear people say that U equals U doesn't look like those people most impacted, which are Black folks and people of color. Well, it looks like me, and I'm talking about it. I think it's up to people to take the message themselves. If it doesn't look like you, then brand it to look like you. Have real conversations that look like you, live like you, and talk like you. So I think that's the problem for me.
Yeah, and we also know that U equals U, undetectable equals untransmittable. It only works if you are undetectable. Why do you think there is this issue within the black and brown communities, especially here in the United States, about getting to undetectable? Is it the stigma?
Well, I don't think it's. I think it's compounded by a lot of things. I think there's social and structural disparities that keep people black folks and people of color. That's how I like to prefer to say it. Black folks and people of color from reaching undetectable. But for me, I do know that a lot of people aren't reaching undetectable because of other behaviors or other life issues may show up. And this is no judgment, but I do know a lot of people uh, aren't adherent to the medication as they should be. But that's not to say that some people have breaks in medication and these things. But the real problem for me is I think people are confusing the U equals U global movement with viral suppression, the science of viral suppression. If you're going to be mad at someone or attack an issue, then attack the researchers that did the research. Uh, but we need to understand that U equals U with the threshold of 200 and below is just the tip of the iceberg. We may learn a few years from now that you can have a viral load of 5,000 not be and be untransmittable. So I think a lot of people are jumping the gun on this. And personally, there was a time when I couldn't reach undetectable. I was on my salvage regimen of medication. Uh, this is right after I got out of prison. My doctor told me the medication you're on is not making you any better, but it's not making you any worse. Just hold on. Something will come out. I had to wait 6, 7 years. But during that time, I heard about the switch statement, and I still felt good about the community. I felt good that I was here, still around after 37 years to hear this message that people who could reach undetectable couldn't transmit HIV, even though it wasn't in my wheelhouse. But after 6, 7 years of holding on, something came down the pipeline. I took it, and 2 months later, I was undetected. So,
Yeah, and you make a really good point there, Bryan. Um, there is something to be said in the message of hope and not giving up on that hope. And I think a lot of people, when they get the diagnosis, and it's sad that still in this day and age they get their diagnosis and they give up hope. And I think there's something really important in what you just said there.
I also think that Black folks and people of color are addressing this, but I think you've got to get into the fight. Les Brown says you can sit in the bleachers and watch the game, or you could come down on the field and have some fun. If it doesn't look like you, then it's up to us to make it look like us. And sometimes they say we're causing a viral divide. You can't cause something that was already there. A viral divide existed even before antiretroviral medication. It always existed. So U equals U didn't cause that viral divide. I always tell people this. If you find a cure for breast cancer, do you not tell those people who have breast cancer because of fear of making all the other people with cancer feel bad? No, you let them, you celebrate them for being able to have a cure for cancer, and then the hopes that it would move studies along. People don't realize that this U equals U, undetectable equals untransmittable. It's pushing research forward for all of us. And it also impacts the stigma for all of us. It changes the way people feel about us, whether we're undetectable or not.
Well, and it is changing, thankfully, slowly but surely, the conversation. So you talk about having to make it look like you, sound like you. So how are you doing that for, as you say, black folks and people of color?
Well, I think for me, um, I deal with the intersection. I meet people where you hear all the time, meet people where they are. But a lot of people, unfortunately, who do this work can't meet people where they are because they've never been where they're at. So for me, I go to food pantries. I do a lot of outreach in a place called Garden Valley, uh, which has all the social and structural disparities that may make people put people at risk for contracting HIV. I don't like these high risk things because if you got a penis or a vagina, you're at risk for contracting HIV. Uh,
It
and if
doesn't
you're
matter
doing,
what color it is, too, right?
what was that?
It doesn't matter what color your penis or vagina is.
It really doesn't. And a lot of times in the dark, you don't really know.
Exactly.
So I think you have to feed a person physically before you can feed them mentally about the information. And I think really that the battle is going to be won with those people who are not living with HIV, convincing them that undetectable equals untransmittable. This is information that they need as much as our community needs. And if we're stopping the message, I do outreach in a place called Garden Valley Neighborhood House. It's also a community called Garden Valley. And they have a center, which is the old settlement house, which is like the heartbeat of the community. In Garden Valley Center, we have a food pantry that feeds 15,000 people a month. People, we don't start giving out food till like 11:30 in the morning. People start lining up at 7:30. It's an ideal time to bring them inside and have an open and candid conversation. And it's a misconception from those people who sit in their offices that these people in these communities do, don't want this information, are not open to this information. They want the information, but they want it from someone who looks like them, live like them. So from that Garden Valley, that's when I started the dirt advocacy movement.
Yeah,
And dirt is
I wanted to get to dirt. Sorry. So you started this advocacy movement, and to the point that you're making there, people want this information who sound and look like them. So tell me about dirt.
well, dirt is an acronym for direct, inspiring, reachable, and teachable. It's conversations that stripped away of all pretense. It's conversations that look like us, live like us, talk like us. Because people need those real, raw conversations. And even a white person can't reach my community. A Latino person can't reach my community, just like I can't reach their community. And sometimes I like to say skin don't make us kin. Sometimes you can have a black person that's not coming from a black perspective, that's coming to talk to our community, but they're coming from their lofty place and kind of talking down to people. People want real conversation. They don't want penis and vagina. They want dick and pussy conversation. And that's real. And young kids need to hear this information like that because that's the language that they're using. So, I always open up. I speak to a group of seniors, about 60 seniors, once a month. And I always open up the conversation. It's like going to Kentucky Fried Chicken. I get me a 2-piece. I like white meat, and I get an extra biscuit. I go to the back. I open it up, and I take the breasts out, and I put a condom on it. Now, why would I do that? I couldn't taste the meat. People are not using condoms when having oral sex for the same reason, because they can't taste the meat. The lady who first invited me to Garden Valley, she was like, "Oh my God, what is he doing? What is he saying?" It got real quiet in the room. Then the seniors just bust out laughing, high-fiving each other, said, he said that. So we broke the ice. They like that conversation. You talk to the seniors, 70, 80-year-olds says, you can give these condoms to your grandkids. They say, hell, I need these condoms. Just because you reach a certain age doesn't mean you're still not getting it in. And the conversation still applies to you. So that's what Dirt Advocacy came about. Because grassroots does programs with money, Dirt Advocacy does wonderful programs and reaches people where they are with no money.
What about the stigma in these communities? How are you affecting the change in just the overall stigma? Forget HIV for a second. The stigma and taboo around sex. There are, men who have sex with men but still go home to their wives or their girlfriends.
Well, I'm a little tired of hearing the word stigma. I don't think there's stigma about everything. Stigma about being a black man in America. It's stigma about being same gender loving. It's stigma around everything, not just HIV. The stigma is the disparities that exist within our system. That's where the stigma lies, and that's the only way we're going to level the playing field, is to get people to leverage their privilege for the greater good. And as a side note, Bruce Richmond is a perfect example of a white man who has leveraged his white privilege for the greater good of all of our community. And a lot of people don't see that. They're so set on attacking his privilege, but they don't realize that he's opened the door for my black butt to come through and possibly meet you and do the work, to continue doing the work that I'm doing, because I was already doing it. But the good thing about the people who are part of our U equals U family, they're not the kind whose voices can be silent. I always say we're the land of misfit toys. We're those people who larger organizations don't really want us around because we're going to speak the truth and we're going to be heard. I always tell people my pronoun is MF, because by the time I walk away from you, will say, "Ooh, that motherfucker."
Well, listen, I don't want you ever to stop being that or one of these misfit toys. Bryan C. Jones, thank you so much for joining me on Plus Talk here on Plus Life. Keep doing what you do, my friend, and I hope that I get to see you in person sooner rather than later. I have a feeling we're going to make that happen. But for the meantime, Bryan C. Jones, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.